Not a single word. That is what Oprah Winfrey has offered about Meghan Markle's Emmy nomination. And in the world of celebrity, that silence lands harder than any statement ever could. Let me set the scene properly. This is Oprah we are talking about. The same woman who broadcast the 2021 Sussex interview to something like 50 million viewers around the world. The woman who turned Harry and Meghan into the story of the year. Oprah promoted Meghan's clever coffee. Oprah featured her in the book club. Winfrey embraced the Duchess of Sussex publicly, warmly, and repeatedly, for years on end. So when the Emmy nomination arrives, the very thing Meghan has been chasing as proof she belongs in Hollywood, you would expect the old champion to say something. A post, a congratulations, a single emoji even. Instead, nothing. Not a repost, not a story, not a quiet like buried in the algorithm. The account that once cheered every Meghan milestone went completely dark on this one, and that is not an accident. That is a calculation.
Meghan Markle is now finding this out with regards to her Emmy nomination, right? And she's kind of thinking that this is truly going to turn around. We've got another trailer which has just come out around the world for this coming Sunday's Channel 10 Australia MasterChef appearance.
According to royal commentator Neil Sean, working from a source close to the situation, the message could not be clearer. In his words, what this signal says to you as an independent, as a person is, we're done, right? That is the reading from inside the industry, and industry people read this stuff fluently. Silence is not neutral here. Silence is a decision. Because in celebrity culture, a friend who suddenly goes quiet is not being polite. That friend is stepping back so the cameras do not catch them standing too close. And here is the part that turns a quiet snub into something colder. Oprah is not just declining to clap. Winfrey is actively going back, revisiting, and gently distancing herself from the very relationship that made Meghan a household name in the first place. So the question becomes obvious. What exactly did Oprah say when she sat down to look at her own greatest hits? She sat down with Vanity Fair for a watch-along of her most iconic television moments, the kind of nostalgic victory lap a legend earns after decades on air. Of all the clips available to her, decades of interviews with the most famous people alive, Oprah chose to revisit the Harry and Meghan sit-down. That choice alone tells you where her head is. She did not reach for the Michael Jackson interview. She did not reach for the "you get a car" moment. She went straight to the one piece of tape that has followed her like a shadow ever since it aired. Watch her body language and the discomfort is written all over it. "I don't think I've done it since," Winfrey admitted, before adding, "I don't know where the hell that came from." Whoop. That is not a woman proudly screening her finest work. That is someone flinching at footage she wishes had aged differently. The involuntary sound, the visible wince, the rushed pivot away from the clip, none of that reads like pride. It reads like someone who has spent years quietly hoping the conversation would move on, and has finally accepted that it will not. Then comes the reframing. "Remember the moment that went around the planet? Were you silenced or silent?" Meghan answered. The latter. Oprah is now explaining that this famous exchange was really about seeking clarification. Her reasoning: "I said it for clarification because I didn't want later to hear, well, no, it wasn't that. It really was that I was silenced." Critics have pounced on the obvious hole. If clarification was the goal, why did Winfrey never ask the follow-ups a real interview demands? Who silenced you? How? When? What were the words? None of that arrived. As commentator Dan Wootton put it, Oprah literally just described the questions she should have asked, and then confirmed she did not ask them. A single raised finger toward the mouth and a leading question is not journalism, it is a stage direction. The bigger confession is almost buried in her own account. Oprah admitted she told Harry and Meghan beforehand, "I want it to be a win-win for you." That is not journalism. That is public relations, delivered by a friend, dressed up as an interview. The win she was chasing was not truth. It was television, and she got it, for a while, until the subjects of that interview kept talking, and the story kept unraveling. And listen to the advice Winfrey now offers about privacy, because it reads like a quiet slap. If you want to keep your privacy, then don't go out. If you want to go to a restaurant, let's stay home and eat. Aimed at whom exactly? The couple who built a brand on complaining about intrusion while chasing every camera in California. Oprah is not speaking in abstractions here. She is describing, with the precision of someone who has thought about it carefully, the exact contradiction that defines the Sussex public strategy. The message is unmistakable to anyone paying attention, even if it arrives wrapped in a story about a Clinique gift bag. Oprah's backtracking points to something bigger than one uncomfortable interview. The support system that once surrounded Meghan is quietly coming apart, so who else has slipped out the back door? Netflix. The very company that handed the Sussexes a reported $100 million deal has, according to Neil Sean, given Meghan's Emmy nomination a wide berth. Think about what that means in practical terms. The publicity machine that exists to promote Netflix content, the social posts, the press releases, the algorithmic pushes, none of it has mobilized around this nomination. A streamer that commissioned the show, paid for the show, and distributed the show is now treating its own Emmy-nominated production like something it would rather not be associated with. Sit with the irony of that. Netflix commissioned, with love Meghan, the exact show now earning this nomination, and the streamer has already declined to renew it. The nomination and the cancellation are chasing each other in circles, and Netflix is watching both from a careful distance. There is also a distinction the celebration crowd keeps skating past. This is a daytime Emmy category, not the primetime Emmys, and people inside the business treat those two things very differently.
Sources are telling them and settling Harry how this relationship between her and Jenner is taking prominent role. At a time when he's making conscious effort to repair long damaged ties with his family, he worries being publicized and linked so closely with reality TV figures sends the wrong message and could jeopardize the progress. From his point of view, it creates a disconnect between the life he is trying to build.
Andy Signor over at Popcorned Palace was blunt about it, calling the daytime version the littler version, a category a celebrity can more easily slip into. He would know. His own team once navigated an underused Emmy category, and he described the process with the kind of insider candor that makes the whole thing feel less like an honor and more like a loophole. His colleague raised the revival argument on Meghan's behalf. Shows like Arrested Development, Family Guy, and Community all got uncancelled after awards attention. True, but every one of those had ratings to justify bringing them back. The audience existed. The demand was documented. The numbers made the case before the trophy ever arrived. Netflix knows the numbers cold, and no nomination rewrites them. The viewership simply never showed up, and a daytime Emmy win on October 30th will not change a single calculation inside Netflix's data rooms. The people who decide what gets renewed are looking at dashboards, not award shelves. So if the streaming plan is stalling, what about the appearance meant to prove she is the real culinary deal? Cut to Australia. Meghan's guest spot on MasterChef was engineered to shore up her chef credentials right as the Emmy conversation heated up. The plan backfired almost immediately. Reports out of Australian outlet New Idea, later picked up by the New York Post, claim Meghan upset co-host Po Ling Yao over the word royalty. Yao introduced Meghan as royalty during the guest appearance, and that apparently caused a problem because Meghan's team had instructed producers not to use the term. Here is the contradiction that makes the whole thing so rich. Meghan's people demanded she be addressed as the Duchess of Sussex. The title, always the title. Yet when Yao used royalty in the general sense, the objection came down. You cannot insist on being treated as royalty and then punish the person who calls you exactly that. The demand and the complaint cancel each other out, and the person left holding the confusion is a cooking show judge who had nothing to do with any of it. An insider described the fallout this way. Po felt like she had been unintentionally drawn into royal protocol issues she never intended to be part of. A judge on a cooking show, tangled in Sussex titles she never signed up to police. A second source suggested the upset was personal rather than procedural, which makes the framing around royal protocol feel even more like a convenient explanation for something simpler. The detail that really lingers is what happened next. Yao reportedly wanted to apologize to Meghan personally, one professional to another. She was talked out of it. She was advised to leave it to production to handle. Read between those lines and the picture is plain. Meghan did not want direct contact. The co-host of the show she appeared on was routed through intermediaries because direct human interaction was apparently not on the schedule. Then there is the cutting room. A third source claimed moments from filming never aired because of personality differences and jokes that did not land. Yao is known for bringing energy and humor to the panel. That warmth apparently could not find a partner. When the outtakes get quietly buried, you can guess how many there were. The fact that production had to make editorial decisions around the friction is its own kind of verdict on how the day went. This is the pattern, playing out yet again. Every appearance Meghan makes seems to generate more controversy than goodwill, more awkward headlines than genuine warmth, which raises the real question underneath all of it. Why does none of this ever seem to stick in her favor? The MasterChef promo itself answered that, almost by accident. Meghan claims cooking is her love language, her way of showing care. Then in the same breath she admits, I don't like to cook under pressure. I like to cook in a really relaxed fashion. A curious thing to say on a high-pressure cooking competition. The contestants were fighting for a title. Meghan's advice was to have fun and keep a sense of humor. Lovely sentiment, hollow coming from someone who just confessed she avoids the one condition that defines actual cooking under a clock. And her signature contribution? Edible flour sprinkles, purely decorative. They add no flavor, no technique, no substance. They exist to look pretty on top of something someone else built, which is a fitting emblem for the whole enterprise. The one thing Meghan has claimed as her culinary identity is something that requires no cooking at all. You scatter it. That is the entire skill set on display. The contradictions keep stacking. Meghan told Drew Barrymore she ordered takeout for Thanksgiving because she was too busy with her show. Think about that. Thanksgiving is the day a genuine home cook lives for, the moment to shine. A person whose love language is food does not outsource the biggest meal of the year. She was promoting a cooking show at the time. The show was the reason she could not cook. The logic collapses the moment you apply any pressure to it, which is perhaps why she prefers a relaxed kitchen. As one commentator put it plainly, if you are going to sell something, you need to sell something you are actually passionate about. Hollywood can smell a performance, and so can viewers. The promo footage, the forced expressions, the ingredients that did not quite cohere, all of it communicates something the marketing budget cannot override. Nobody is buying this one. Neil Sean summed up the moment with a line that stings. Right now, nobody in the celebrity world is offering to assist Markle's push for that daytime Emmy on October the 30th. Not one prominent name stepping up. No coordinated social push. No friendly interviews timed to build momentum. Just the nomination, sitting there, unaccompanied. Sean has watched this game for decades, and he described the mechanics of it without flinching. People keep their distance when you're trouble. They can sniff it, and they think, no, we don't want to be with you. He reached back to a photograph of Faye Dunaway the day after her Oscar win, surrounded by tributes, and recalled the actress telling him the phone simply stopped ringing afterward. Everyone assumed she was set. Nobody called. That, Sean says, is Hollywood in its purest form. Success does not guarantee loyalty. Trouble guarantees distance. The retreat goes well beyond Oprah. The whole cast of high-profile supporters who once rallied around the Duchess of Sussex has gone conspicuously quiet. The vocal defenders, the guests who filled her Netflix show, all of them noticeably softer now. The calculation has shifted. Being associated with Meghan Markle no longer carries the upside it once did, and in a town that runs on upside, that is a terminal diagnosis for a friendship. Which brings us to the Kris Jenner conversation. Reports suggest Meghan is exploring reality television, possibly in the Jenner orbit, and Popcorn Palace laid out why that would actually suit her. Reality TV is controlled, curated, and image managed, precisely the environment Meghan prefers. The Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary was described by commentators as essentially staged, which means the transition to scripted reality would require almost no adjustment at all. But measure the descent. When Meghan first landed in California, reports claim she waved off the Kardashian-Jenner clan as beneath her. She wanted the A-list, the prestige producers, the serious directors, the untouchable tier. Now, years later, the same family she reportedly dismissed is apparently the most viable option on the table. The convergence has been gradual, trips together, shared events, overlapping social circles, but the direction of travel is unmistakable. The woman who arrived in Hollywood aiming for the top is now reportedly circling the very world she once considered beneath her. That is not a pivot, that is a retreat. So while Meghan's Hollywood ambitions shrink, what has Harry been doing an ocean away? Making things worse, apparently.
I think she's absolutely furious about the Daily Mail debacle. Absolute total humiliation for Harry. You know, all 97 allegations of phone hacking and illegality totally contemptuously dismissed by a judge.
Harry just wrapped a UK trip that isolated the couple further, rather than repairing anything. His Daily Mail court case collapsed spectacularly, with all 97 allegations dismissed. The ruling was a brutal public defeat, and sources say Meghan is absolutely furious about the humiliation. The cost figure being discussed publicly runs to £50 million, a staggering sum attached to a case that produced nothing. Notice the visibility gap. Harry turned up everywhere during the UK visit. A rugby podcast, a James Corden sit-down, Invictus promotion, a New York red carpet. Meghan, meanwhile, was completely missing. We are told she and the children were in the UK briefly, but there was not a single image, not a glimpse, not a coordinated appearance. Commentator Kinsey Schofield keeps circling the same question, and so does everyone else. How long is it since we have seen them together? It is a question that keeps getting louder precisely because no one is answering it. Their stated dream is to reverse Megxit and land some half-in, half-out royal role. Yet the Australia trip showed exactly why the late Queen Elizabeth's ruling holds firm. You cannot monetize the monarchy and represent it at the same time. The photographs of Meghan at the scene of the Bondi Beach attack, the clothing promoted alongside those images, the AI app that had to strip pictures of her with victims, all of it illustrated in real time why the Queen's original position was not a punishment. It was a recognition of an incompatibility that Harry and Meghan have spent years trying to pretend does not exist. October 30th is coming. and Meghan faces that ceremony stripped of the celebrity cavalry that once marched beside her. No Oprah post, no chorus of famous friends, no Netflix banner, just a nomination and a lot of silence from the people who used to make noise on her behalf. Even a win would ring hollow. A daytime Emmy brings no Netflix renewal because the numbers already spoke. It brings no Hollywood embrace because the industry has already edged away. It brings no royal reconciliation because that door was shut by a queen and kept shut by a king who has made clear the terms are not negotiable. The trophy, if it comes, will be a beautiful object in a room where the phone has stopped ringing. The pattern is now impossible to ignore. Every project produces more backlash than momentum. Every appearance manufactures more critics than converts. The MasterChef mess, the as-ever inventory, reportedly sitting in a warehouse with no buyers, the empty rooms, the missing partner, the court defeat, they all point the same direction. Neil Sean framed the emotional stakes cleanly. For Markle to be snubbed at this level, particularly as she's invested so much, is going to hurt. Here is the verdict. This Emmy nomination is Meghan's final serious bid for entertainment industry credibility, and Hollywood's silence is not indifference, it is a verdict, already rendered, delivered in the cruelest language the town knows, which is no language at all. Whether she wins or loses on the 30th, the cold shoulder tells the real story. The industry that once flung its arms open has quietly closed its doors, and the people who used to answer her calls have stopped picking up. The trophy, if it comes, will sit on a shelf in Montecito as a monument to a career that Hollywood decided was over before the envelope was ever opened. I want to hear your take. Comment below and hit subscribe if you have not already.